Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And today's show is brought to you by the Dream Project. You can find out more information from our friends at the Dream Project at the link at the bottom of your screen. And joining us is none other than the superstar herself, and that is Daria DeLucia of at Hoboken Eats.
The intros get better and better.
Right on, superstar. I mean,
Only
the
going
lights
by-
are shining.
Only going by superstar from now on.
Only going by superstar. We're not even going to say Daria. We're just going to call her superstar.
At
Yes.
Hoboken Superstar.
At Hoboken Superstar. Get that hashtag ready.
All right, let's come back down to earth.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to be talking about one of Hoboken's only steakhouses.
Yes.
We were talking before the segment. And of course, that is Dino and Harry's, located at 163 14th Street, which is extremely close to our studio. I can actually smell them sizzling the beef, as they say.
Yeah.
Daria, so it's so interesting because everybody thinks of Dino and Harry's and everybody's like, ugh, it's so expensive there, but you really are getting what you pay for.
You are getting what you pay for. And I'm a big fan of ambiance is key to any restaurant. You walk in there, you feel like you're in an old school New York City steakhouse. It gives you those old school vibes. They have the piano there with the piano player. They have like the big bar when you first walk in. It's the pictures on the wall. They have the huge mirror windows up in the front so you can kind of see out into the street a little bit too. Like great ambiance, fantastic ambiance. So you're going in there, you're automatically off the back and have a great time. Two, it's steak. You're paying for a good meal. You're paying for your alcohol. You're paying for a good meal.
Exactly. And that's what's important. All right. I mean, look, 9 out of 10 people that you talk to would say, I don't mind paying for a meal if it's good.
Yes, 100%. And meat is something that you do want to pay money for. You want to invest in that. However, I don't think that it is. I think there's definitely more expensive steakhouses that we could be talking about.
Yeah.
But in terms of Hoboken, it might be one of the more pricier restaurants in town.
Exactly. And Dino does an excellent job there. It used to be Frankie and Johnny's. Do you remember that?
No.
Years ago, it was
Showing his
Frankie
age.
Wailed. Trust me. Used to be Frankie and Johnny's, which has a sister restaurant in New York, which is a very popular steakhouse there. And then something happened with ownership there, and Dino took it over. And now it's Dino and Harry's. Okay. So one of my go-tos, look at that. I'm starting with food. Sweets.
Am I the host and he's
Exactly, apparently. One of my go-tos every time I go there is the shrimp cocktail. Are you a fan?
I am a fan.
They're so big.
I am a fan. Big time.
I mean, it's so good.
You know what else I'm a fan of, though?
What else are you a fan of?
And this is probably what people say it's expensive because I like the lobster tails and a nice filet mignon.
Also, you do like a little surf and turf.
Surf and
type of
turf.
thing.
Yep.
Nice.
That's my go-to. And I used to be a petite filet mignon kind of girl, but now I want all of it. I want all of it. It's so good.
You're gonna have it. You might as well have it.
You might as well go all in.
Exactly. Now, another appetizer that I like there is the bacon. Did you ever see the bacon?
I have
thick. Exactly.
THICC thick.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how else you would spell it. Anyway, so but flavorful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm personally a fan when you go to any steakhouse is trying the bacon, and if you can't get it, if you're not going to get it by itself, getting it on like a blue cheese salad. Those are big things at steakhouses, just because if you know how to cook the meat, you know how to cook the meat. So if you're gonna make, I'm talking like this right now. You can cook the meat.
Lucia's coming out here apparently.
But if you can cook a good steak, chances are you're gonna make a thick cut of bacon. It tastes like heavenly. Which not everyone can do.
Exactly. So now, as I've mentioned on this show several times, unfortunately, I gave up red meats about 5-6 years ago, so I haven't really visited Dino and Harry's. But for a person that doesn't eat red meats,
that's okay.
There are other options.
There are plenty of options. You can get. They have a wide array of seafood you can get. You can also get chicken. They have a few different pasta dishes. Cacio e pepe always stands out to me.
Wow, I didn't even know they had that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of cacio e pepe, so that one always glares at me. But of course, you're going to get pasta at a steakhouse from my dad always. So
Yeah, it's like getting pasta at a diner. Actually, it's not. I'm sure it's better than a diner.
not wrong, though.
I agree with you. But it's important that you do have that seafood.
You have to have that
balance
option.
it.
Exactly. And that's what makes them not just because you want to have that flexibility to bring in like the large parties, which obviously during COVID's difficult, but still having a group of 8, not everyone might eat the red meat and not everyone might eat the seafood. So having the chicken options, having the seafood options, having the pasta options, but also having a different array of appetizers, but then your sides also.
Exactly.
So the sides are almost one of the most important parts of a steakhouse, in my opinion.
One of them, I completely know. You can go to a steakhouse and just get sides.
Yes.
And stuff yourself.
And be very happy.
Exactly. Explain to me some of the sides.
I don't get sides at restaurants when I go out to eat unless it's
No,
French fries.
unless you're at a steakhouse.
But when you go to a steakhouse, you always have to save like a little bit of room in that like special back compartment of your stomach that is only safe
next to where you save the dessert room.
Yes, that extra back part that you don't have room for, but always have room for. I always get the cream spinach.
Oh, so good.
It's my favorite. And I literally only eat it at a steak restaurant. I don't ever crave cream spinach. The second I sit down and see the menu and I'm like, oh yeah, cream spinach, gotta get that. French fries.
You had the fries there, huh?
I'm always a fry girl.
Have you done the mashed potatoes?
I have not there. No.
It's like a little bit of a garlic mash.
Ooh,
so good.
That sounds banging.
So good.
They have Brussels sprouts too.
Love that.
Love them. And I know they have like potatoes au gratin. Mm-hmm. So they give you a little bit of everything. String beans.
I mean, it's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, you can't go wrong with the sides. Now, this is definitely a reservation type of spot,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
I mean, especially with the capacity, well, not so new capacity issues, 50% capacity still. But you definitely want to make a reservation.
Definitely. It's most definitely, I know we bring this up on other shows, date night spot or not. Huge date night spot. Definitely a family restaurant when your parents are coming in to visit you in Hoboken or your kids are coming in to visit you or sister, brother, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Bring them there. It is a great like representation of some really good like old school Hoboken cooking, in my opinion. And the food's always 10 out of 10.
Amazing. It really, really is amazing. And you know, one of the things that I love about Dino and Harry's, like you said, it's like old school type of Hoboken.
Yeah.
I mean, like the clientele there's a lot of regulars.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, having a 4-course meal, they're at the bar.
I was just gonna say, sitting at the bar. It's a really cool bar. It's huge.
It's huge.
And
It's
like,
amazing.
Obviously, there's a lot of bars in Hoboken, but you're not getting like that kind of like wood oaky kind of like piano bar because the piano's like right behind it. Like you get really nice vibes just sitting there.
Exactly.
And it's a little bit of an elevated experience too.
Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about, and we spoke about where we put it in our stomachs or where we make room for it, is the desserts.
Yes.
So they have something called what? Do you know what it is?
I don't think
it's
so.
called the Snowboken.
Oh, I do know that. He's the influencer on this episode.
Apparently so. This is when I was like 50 pounds heavier and I used to eat red meat a lot more. But what's in the Snowboken?
Yeah, I'm going to let you take this one.
Oh, God. Okay, so I believe it's vanilla. I believe the cup is drizzled with chocolate syrup that is hardened, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Then it's vanilla ice cream.
Yes.
And coconut shavings at the top, followed by more chocolate syrup, I believe.
Yes, which gives it the whenever there's a snowstorm in Hoboken, Snowboken.
That's right.
I'm guessing that's where it comes from.
Exactly. Get the Snowboken.
Get it all.
Get it all.
Get it
Tony
all.
Daria Diligent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you on in a future episode.
Hey, wait.
Exactly. You want to go get some sides at Dino and Harry's?
All the
Oh, you can
sides.
have steak. I'll have the sides.
I'm gonna have lobster tail. Is this on the pulse? Is this gonna be just a corporate dinner?
We'll bring the camera. Oh, Jesus. I don't know if our budget. We got a good budget.
Lobster tails
It's worth it.
and
It's
filet
worth it.
mignon.
It's worth it. Well, Daria DeLucia, that Hobokenese, thank you again. And we look forward to seeing you on a future episode.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, folks, when we come back, we have more Pulse for you. You are not going to want to miss it. By the way, Dino and Harry's is located at 163 14th Street in the beautiful city of Hoboken. We'll be right back.
My story is a New Jersey story, and it all started right here on Anderson Street in Raritan Borough, where my parents owned a bar and restaurant and raised their family. I'm Jack Chittarelli. Jersey's where I started and built 2 successful Main Street businesses, creating jobs and opportunities for fellow New Jerseyans. It's where Melinda and I raise our 4 children. This is my home, and yours. But New Jersey is broken. You know it, and I know it. And we're going to fix it together. Every one of us has our New Jersey story. As governor, I'll work hard every day to ensure that our children and their children can write their own.
Welcome back to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano, and I smelled them coming in, and it wasn't a pretty scent, but that is our political analyst, Josh Sotomayor Einstein. Josh, how are you today?
Listen, for the record, all our viewers out there in TV land, he said we weren't going to go hard on each other, and I know that because normally he's soft. But I guess the truce is over, so you'll hear it, guys.
Is over.
I guess it never existed. You can't trust
Something, though,
you can't trust Democrats. It's basically the
something
brass
that
tacks.
we don't go soft on is any type of hypocrisy that we see from the local government, though, correct?
Yes, at least local government, we keep it to them.
Exactly. So now why don't we talk about something that we haven't done much on this show and talk about the Hoboken Board of Education. Of course, I was a member on that prestigious body for 6.5 years. It's been close to 4 years that I've been off, but they've been doing some shady things with their enrollment figures, correct?
Oh, yeah. A source that we have sent us some information, a breakdown involving official reports about the spending and how they raised taxes. I believe it was during COVID times in 2020, and how they raised taxes. It was a total of 9-point-something percent.
A little less than 10%, correct? Yeah.
So they were allowed to normally raise taxes 2%, and they were able to raise taxes an additional 7-point-something percent. And that's going to be baked in for all the future budgets for the BOE moving forward in Hoboken. And their claim was that there was a massive surge in enrollment. And obviously we're living in COVID times, so I don't know how many more educators you need to sit in front of a computer to educate kids that are at home on that said computer. Don't get me wrong, I love educators. I was birthed from an educator. My mom was a teacher. So I feel your pain, and most of your problems are with the administration, not with parents. Even if you can't say that out loud, I can. But the budget BS was essentially that there was a massive wave of students, and going through the numbers, that doesn't seem to be the case.
No, absolutely not. And why don't we talk a little bit about the numbers? So the pre-K3 and pre-K4 enrollment, which has consistently increased year after year after year. I could tell you that when I was first elected to the board, I think there was 400 students, and my last year on the board was close to 800 students. But that number actually went down by 31 students for one reason or another. But there was an increase of, I believe, 60 or 80 students from the K to 8 enrollments. But where the shock comes in, and this is something that I kept pounding when I was a member of the Board of Ed, is at the high school. I think the high school can fit up to 1,200 students, maybe 1,000 students. There's 375 students there.
And if I could just interject about the high school, Hoboken High School participates in countywide school choice.
Correct.
So if I'm a parent in North Bergen or Union City or Weehawken or any of the other towns in Hudson County, I can elect to send my child to Hoboken High School. And I think it's 150, maybe
147. Yeah, you're right there.
147 students from outside Hoboken elect to go to Hoboken High School, which you said the number total was
375. So it's about 30%.
Yeah, so around 30%.
Right.
And so what happens there in terms of funding, because they're not an excuse for higher taxes. What happens there with funding is that the municipality, which is sending them, that they live in, the money that they would get for education goes to the receiving school. So there really doesn't seem to be any excuse whatsoever to raise taxes, which is music to my ears, because I think taxes are pretty much theft. But sometimes I guess, you could make an excuse that it's necessary. But when it doesn't seem necessary like now, it just seems like extra theft, particularly egregious. And especially since, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but for the vast majority of these silly COVID times that we've been living in, shouldn't there be a less of a utilities cost for all the schools?
Absolutely. But I just want to go back to the numbers right now because I don't want people to be confused. Yes, there was a 31 student drop in pre-K3 and pre-K4, and there was an 80 or 60 student increase in K to 8. But like you said, the high school enrollment has stayed relatively flat, but there was also an increase by, I believe, 60 students, choice students in the high school. So therefore, that funding, like you said, is coming from outside districts and shouldn't be paid on the taxpayers of Hoboken.
Well, it really makes you question on any level of government, whether or any taxing authority, whether it's the BOE in your municipality, in this case in Hoboken, special improvement district like the Hoboken Business Alliance, the city council, the county. Where is the money actually going?
It's a very, very good question. I mean, I could tell you, there was that comparison when I was on the board of why does the cost of a child in a charter school much less than a public school. And, I've always said, well, the public schools have teachers unions. And obviously, teachers get paid much more. I don't want to say much better.
Well, listen,
but
I've never looked at all the charter schools or all the private schools, so I can't compare them. But I do know that I support a person's right to choose to be in a free association. So if you want to choose to be in a union, I support that, especially if you work in a private place. But unions and the original board of what became the AFL-CIO said that unions existed to get for the worker a fair share of the company's profits, to get from their labor, the value of the actual value of their labor. And they didn't believe in public sector unions because there's no profit when it comes to working in the public sector. It's just the taxpayer money. So I think maybe that's what you have here. And again, I don't blame the teachers. I think there's people that are elected often don't have a problem reaching further and further into people's pockets because it's not their money. And I think probably somewhere in the administration, there's a ton of waste and a ton of employees that aren't exactly doing anything. I know from when my mom was a teacher, in where she worked in the city, public school as well, that it was almost impossible to get rid of employees, whether they were teachers, administrators, support staff, that weren't the best at their job, and they would just get shunted someplace where they would just sit in a room and do whatever they wanted. Kind of like when you're a kid and you're a bad student and the bad school districts just send you to that detention room during the day or in-school suspension and you don't do anything, but with the added cost of paying for bureaucrats that aren't contributing anything positive.
I'm going to leave you with this this statistic because I know that you're going to be cringing at this number. But over a 10-year period, the taxpayers of Hoboken will pay an additional $51 million to education spending on what most might say is a false narrative in terms of increased enrollment, because we just went over the numbers. Well, and there is no increased enrollment.
This is the hypocrisy
51 million
of the woke social justice crybabies that dominate everything in Hoboken government, whether it's in the BOE or in the city council, where on the one hand they talk about social justice, equity, and on the other hand they reach further and further into people's pockets and they say they can afford it. Mm-hmm. And the reality is the people that can't afford it eventually move out of town. And then these crybabies repeatedly say, these woke monsters, they say, oh, look what happens. Why aren't we more economically diverse? Why aren't we more racially diverse? Well, you chased everyone out of town by death by 1,000 cuts when you didn't have to. They made a choice. They made everyone's cost of living more expensive, and they should be held accountable.
Exactly. Well, we're glad to touch up on this important topic, as you know, our political analyst, Josh Sotomayor Einstein. Good seeing you.
The pleasure was yours.
The pleasure is all mine, as always. Exactly. Just next time, underarm deodorant, please. Anyway, let's go to commercial break. And as he's cracking up there, folks, we will be right back with more Pulse.
My story is a New Jersey story, and it all started right here on Anderson Street in Brereton Borough, where my parents owned a bar and restaurant and raised their family. I'm Jack Chitterelli. Jersey's where I started and built 2 successful Main Street businesses, creating jobs and opportunities for fellow New Jerseyans. It's where Melinda and I raise our 4 children. This is my home, and yours. But New Jersey is broken. You know it, and I know it. And we're going to fix it together. Every one of us has our New Jersey story. As governor, I'll work hard every day to ensure that our children and their children can write their own.
Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to go on our Facebook and our Instagram pages by searching The Pulse with Peter B. and like and follow us on each of those platforms. We're constantly updating those pages with previews of each week's segments and cool stories. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our email address, at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. And folks, this is the first time in a very, very long time that I actually filmed all 3 segments of my own show. And I'm a little tired. The lights are getting me tired. And I think one of the issues has been the person to my right over here. And you have known her for being the guest host here. And of course, that is Nicolette Ayala. Nicolette, what's going on?
Hello, Peter. How are you?
I am fantastic.
The view's a little different on this side.
I was going to say.
I don't know if this is my good side. I'm used to that side.
And obviously the audience just keeps loving that you're guest host, and they're like, give us more Nicolette and less Peter. I mean, I see your emails out there. Don't worry about that. And I'm going to come find you guys. I swear to God. As Greg, our cameraman, is nodding profusely behind the camera. I'll be talking to him after the show. But anyway, a little different, like you said, on this side.
Right.
But we're happy to have you here again this week.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it.
Exactly. So now you are actually a college student.
Yes, I am.
I can't believe it. Actually, I could believe it because you're so young. But
well, I'm closer to 30. So.
all right, well, listen, I didn't want to, out you to the camera here, but
okay,
apparently,
it's okay.
she said it, not me. But anyway, so now you went back to school.
Correct.
And it is a little more difficult, obviously, now during the pandemic, but I'm going to make you speak on that. This is your second stint in college. What are the differences between when you went a few years ago as compared to now?
Well, I can definitely say, transitioning out of high school, I graduated 10 years ago, so do the math. But transitioning out of high school, going first into college, I went to a community college, and at that point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just kind of went in because, it's the thing you got to do. You got to go to college. And I went for liberal arts. And it took me about 5 years. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't like your traditional go in for 2 years for your associates and then you're done. It took me 5 years. So essentially I did it, I gained my associates, and after that I, went to work at a doctor's office, and I was there for about 3 years. And I think it was right after that you and I met, actually.
Yeah,
I was
right.
working with the New York Mets, and, at that point I was kind of like, I want to get into a career. I want to get into a field that I actually enjoy doing. I love sports. I love food. I like to think, I think I'm pretty well, on camera. I think I'm a people person overall. So I wanted to get into something that I knew that was going to set my soul on fire and drive me. And I decided, I needed to leave where I was at, my 9-to-5 doctor's office job. Nothing wrong with first line responders, doctor's office.
They're more prevalent now than they've ever been.
Absolutely, I respect it, but it just wasn't for me per se. So I decided to go back to school, and I went for media studies, television production, and
And voila, you're on the Pulse
There you
with
go,
Peter B.
exactly.
I was going to say.
So things were a little different back then. So now, going in 2019, I started my bachelor's, and I was in person about like 5 days a week. I was doing my courses, and then the pandemic hit in March of 2020. So it was, so I was in person for a semester, and then the last year and a half, because I'm graduating this May, I've been like, kind of blended, mixed between online and in person. So it was a little bit different. I appreciate it now more than ever, because it kind of forced me to kind of, hunker down and like get it together.
So I just, thank you for sharing that. And for in all honesty, because there are many people who watch this program, and they're like, we want the backstory, and we're giving you the backstory of our recurring talent here on the Pulse with Peter B.
That's right.
And today we're starting with Nicolette. We've had, listen, you don't want to know my backstory because it's not going to take that long, or it'll take, 4 shows. But anyway,
It will.
as Nicolette can vouch for, apparently. So, moving into your second stint in college, when you went back for media studies, like you said, did you see a difference attending in person? This is pre-pandemic. Attending in person than you did when you were at the community college?
Yes. I think when I first went into the community college, I just took whatever classes that I thought made sense. And, I was like a crazy person. I had, my 11 to 2 class, or 11 to 1. I had a 2-hour break, and then I did like a night class on campus from like 6 to 9. Now when I went back, I was older, and I was like, well, I need to, have a little bit,
better with my time management kind of thing. And, I am working. So it was one of those, I needed to create a schedule for myself that was not so all over back and forth, back and, okay, I got to go home. I got to go back to campus. I got to come back. Cause I was going home, taking breaks for like 3 hours and then driving back another 25 minutes. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? So definitely pre-pandemic, I appreciated it more. I was able to gain that college experience. It is a community, not a commute. It's a commuting kind of school where you can, dorm or commute. So I was able to appreciate it more now that I'm older, pre-pandemic,
Now, you are in your final year of college.
Yes.
And you, like you said, you've been going to class virtually basically the last year, a year
blended,
and a half.
yeah.
Blended
I try to
last
go
year.
in when I can.
Do you feel that the pandemic has taken something away from you, though, from your last year and a half that's blended in college?
For me personally, no. I don't think it has because, like I said, I needed to have that kind of hard reset where I needed to stay in place. I needed to focus. I needed to take it, serious this time around. I'm the one paying for my loans, essentially. This is me. This isn't, mommy and daddy or,
We hope the federal, the executive branch and the legislative branch, gets moving on those loan forgiveness. Come on, guys.
So essentially, this is me doing it. And versus I'm pretty sure if I was an athlete, or within some sort of club in school, I think it would have affected me in a different way. But, I'm not an athlete at my college. I'm just a regular college student trying to get my degree. So essentially, nothing was taken away from me. I was still able to be grateful to go to campus, to socialize with my classmates, to, be one-on-one interaction with my teachers. And even now, I get it, the pandemic happened it's ongoing. And it's still tough. Everyone's still trying to adjust here and there. There's some people that just will never get Zoom, and then there's some people who do get it.
Exactly. I still don't get it. I mean, I'm like, Zoom into what? Oh, it's a program. Anyway, we have a little bit of time here. How difficult is it for somebody who's finishing school or college, for this matter, and trying to land a job during a pandemic?
Listen, I think I can speak just for myself. If you want something, you're going to go out and you're going to get it.
That's right.
You're going to want to get it. And for me, my type of persona, I'm a hustler. If I want something, I'm going to go out and get it. I'm going to apply for that job. I'm going to do it. Even if I got to come down to Jersey, I'm a New Yorker, so, further up north. But, it's one of those things where it's hard, but you have to stay disciplined. If you want something, you have to discipline yourself. It's, there's times where it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm on Indeed or I'm on, LinkedIn trying to connect with people. So
I'm usually in bed.
So it's all about discipline. If you really want it, you're going to make it happen. And I think, hopefully we'll see what opens up for me. But
well, that's what I like to hear. Nicolette Ayala, you're invited back anytime to Jersey. We even take New Yorkers in, I swear, as you could say.
I don't know, Peter, I might take your show away from you.
Apparently so. I mean, it's been said before, the Pulse with Nicolette A. So you're invited to sit in this chair or that chair anytime. So,
I appreciate
good
it.
To
Thank
see
you so
again.
much, Peter.
Absolutely. Folks,
bye, everyone.
She waves goodbye. Today's show is brought to you by The Dream Project. You can find out more information about our friends at The Dream Project at the link at the bottom of your screen. Thank you for joining us this week. Join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Peter Biancamano. Have a great week, everybody.
The Pulse with Peter B. is a proud partner of Eyes on NJ.
I'm Jack Chitterelli. Jersey's where I started and built 2 successful Main Street businesses, creating jobs and opportunities for fellow New Jerseyans. It's where Melinda and I raise our 4 children. This is my home, and yours. But New Jersey is broken. You know it, and I know it. And we're going to fix it together.